Right. Let me hit the record button and we will get going. I'm glad we have a good group today. We met with the PC2 folks this morning, so I want to just reintroduce everyone to everyone. We have Miranelli, who is in the center square, or at least she is in my screen. Heather Hare, who's in the upper left corner, and Michelle Slater, who is in the bottom left corner. So we were working today on some talk about leverage and helping them build the business and create a better quality of life, and passing off a lot of the tasks that are not strategic and efficient for the CEO, so to speak, to be working on. And hopefully that will create some other opportunities for other people. And one of the things that, while I've got a big audience here, one of the things that I had in mind when we first started this program was I did not want it to be known as the place where the brand new people go, right? And once you figured out how to write a listing contract, you were like, peace out, right? I want there to be a support structure created for people of all production levels, all experience levels, because I think it's fair to say that no matter what level you get to, and how much money you're making, there's still something that needs some attention in your business. There's still an efficiency that can be created. There's still a person that can be brought in, right? There's kind of stretching of your thinking that can be done by another person. So I just want to publicly thank Heather and Miranelli and Michelle and the couple of others that are in the group for essentially trusting that your business can continue to grow with the help of a coach. So thank you for that. Okay, guys, who wants to share some good news? It seems like we've been having some good success lately. Anybody want to share a success story? Then we'll jump right into making being learning-based the foundation of your action plan. That's our topic today, one of the 6 personal perspectives. Any success stories that you want to share?
Is it okay if I talk, or you want just, oh, okay. I had 2 listings go live on Friday, and they were both under contract by Saturday morning.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that was exciting. And I had a great coaching session with you yesterday, and my assistant and I have a great plan. Beautiful. So feeling ready to tackle the second half of the year.
All right, I love that.
Meet my goals at the finish line.
Okay, let's do one more. Who else wants to share something? And then we'll jump right in. Come on now.
If nobody else wants to go.
Heather, go ahead.
Obviously, we all know I've been pretty sick, and so I just really started getting back my groove. Over the weekend, I placed some buyers under new construction, and currently this week I'm focusing on getting 2 listing agreements signed. So that's where I'm at this week.
Awesome. Okay, let's jump right in. There's a concept. This is the 4th step of the 6 personal perspectives, and this one is making being learning based the foundation of our action plan. Okay, what does that mean to you guys? When I say learning based, what do you hear?
Well, this is one of my favorites of the 6 personal perspectives, which, by the way, I keep on my desk. They're that important. I can't wait. Well, somebody in the office is going to teach this class soon, and I can't wait for all of y'all to take it if you haven't yet. Mm-hmm. But to be learning based is to always be seeking knowledge, to know that you're expandable, and we grow into our businesses. So for us, for my team, it means we have a book that we have to read but our growth plan, there's a book in our growth plan for each month.
Well, that's the standard of your organization. So
right.
They aren't required to read it, but if they want to do their job, they're required to read it.
Right. Yes. And it's really about, yeah, and it's not so much like, hey, learn to do this. It's, I grow and, help my family grow and help my people grow and see their families grow. And so being learning based, I mean, if you don't learn anything new, you're going to be the same person you were at 17, 20, 30, 60. So to constantly be reading and seeking out knowledge, be coachable, I think is big. Some people aren't coachable, right? Oh, I don't want a coach to tell me what to do. I don't want a boss telling me what to do. And it's, but to be coachable.
Yep, that's exactly right. And by the way, the coach is only telling you what to do or making recommendations based on the fact that you have now shared your goal, right? If the coach is not pushing you towards your goal, you probably got the wrong coach, quite frankly, right? Okay, so let's look at does anyone else want to share thoughts on what that means to them being learning based? Thank you for sharing, Michelle.
I think learning based is empowering. And I find a lot of newer agents say to me like, oh, how did you know how to do this? Or how do you know when to say that? Or how do you know what to say? But if you sit in any of our classes or any of our team meetings and you read the books, and I know Keller Williams throws 5,000 books at you a day, just make a list, drop them in your Amazon, order them anyway, get an Audible, because if I'm not on a team meeting, and I'll be honest with you, I feel a little lost if I'm not absorbing everything that Aubrey is pouring into us. So being learning based is very, very empowering.
Yep. I think this is a slide from the Six Personal Perspectives curriculum. And it says, a learning-based individual is an individual who has made the decision to use effective learning as the foundation piece for their action plan to develop their life. So you basically, part of it is not just being a learner, but it's what are you going to do with your new knowledge, right? So are you learning for knowing's sake, or are you, which Gary says is ignorance-based thinking, right? I know what I know and I'll ignore anything else. Or are you learning intentionally for doing's sake, right? Are you reading an investment book so that you can make an investment? Or are you just reading it to store away the knowledge somewhere, right? So what is the purpose behind the learning? Okay, so let me show you this idea too. There's called 4 levels of competency. Okay, the first is you start the process at level 1, unconscious incompetence. At this level, you don't know what you don't know. Are there perhaps a couple people in the group today that feel that way? Right? It's okay.
Absolutely.
That's okay. You don't know what you don't know. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this thing when a short sale comes. Don't worry, we got you. But just understand that you need to learn, right? And we're here to help you get intentional about what to learn and when to learn it, okay? For example, if you've never driven a car, you have no idea how complicated it can be. So number 2, if you acquire some knowledge, the question here is we don't know what we don't know. Number 2, if we acquire some knowledge, you move into level 2, which is conscious incompetence. At level 2, you know what you don't know. For example, once you start to drive, you might figure out that parallel parking can be a challenge. So a good example of step 1 and 2 would be, you get into the business and you think that, you're just going to drive up to the mountaintop in your Porsche, and the other agent's going to drive up to the other side of the mountaintop in their Porsche, and you're going to be like 6 million, 4 million, 5 million. Okay, let's party, right? And then cha-ching, cha-ching, I just made 300 grand. It probably didn't take too long to realize that there's a little bit more involved in that. That's not quite as TV friendly. Is that fair to say? Okay, so now you might know, okay, well, gosh, there's a whole book of scripts that I need to be fluent in. I'm probably gonna have to buy it, or not buy, but build a buyer presentation. I'm gonna have to get organized on a listing presentation. I'm gonna need to understand FMLS. I'm gonna need to understand DocuSign. I'm gonna need to understand Command, right? You're starting to understand what some of the major tools and resources are. Oh my gosh, there's this thing where some other company will buy my person's house so that they can buy before they sell, even though they technically don't have the money to do it. Yeah, okay, here's a free certification class. When are you going? Right? Because your competition has the tool and they know how to use it. So if you don't even have the tool, why should they pick you? right? So are you intentionally growing your resources and growing your knowledge base every day? So now somebody like Melissa, can I talk to you for a second? So
Yeah, sure.
Melissa's been in the business a couple weeks, right? And you're probably, if I was to take a guess, somewhere between number 1 and number 2 right now, right? And you're learning, oh my gosh, I got to learn that. I got to study that. Here's how to look up comps. Here's how to deal with contracts, right? You're starting to get some ideas of some of the stuff that you're going to have to navigate. So you're en route to number 2, right? We don't know. We now know what we don't know. And that's right.
That's for sure.
That's basically where you say, I'm overwhelmed. Okay. All right. So let's just take stock of where we're at, right? Awareness is the first step. So now we move on to number 3. If we apply wisdom to your knowledge, you will move to level 3, which is conscious competency. In our example, this is when you become proficient at parallel parking, though you may have to focus on each step. So let's use a listing presentation for an example. So you might dissect that whole process. Okay, what happens prior to the listing appointment, right? What questions do I need to ask? What intake forms do I need to have? What knowledge base do I need to have? How do I explain the process, right? How do I, if somebody were to say, why would I pick you? How do I navigate through that conversation, right? Here are the 6 most common objections that you're going to face. Go learn the scripts, and are you prepared? Because they're probably going to come, right? So you kind of, it's almost like you're building a, you guys, I say this a lot, but you guys know when you watch a TV show and it's got closed captioning, and you know sometimes you'll read what's going on in the background, like leaves, you know, blowing in the wind, or you know, doorbell rings or something like that. You got to understand that's pretty deep. That's the depth to which the authors are kind of creating the story, right? And therefore you can kind of use this as a parallel. So for example, you could go in and say, hey, I like to say this at this stage in the presentation, or I like to sit here when I'm saying this, or I want to look at the house and then I want to do this, or I want to do this and then look at the house, right? So you're choreographing the whole experience, because the better you get at each of these little segments, the more confident you'll be, and that'll show in your body language and your phrases and all that stuff, right? Okay. Over time, with an additional practice, your competency becomes a habit, and you move from level 3 to level 4, which is unconscious competence. At this level, you could readily parallel park when you're singing along to the radio, right? So there was many years ago that you would say, hey, Bill, how do you deal with this objection? I'd say, hey, hang on, let me look it up. Now I could just say it. I could just say it in the middle of the night, probably, right? Because I said it 3 million times. Does that make sense? So the goal is to say, how intentional are you being going through this path, right? I didn't get a chance to say this out loud during the team meeting yesterday, but I just want to say one thing that was one of my biggest observations. There's a lot of really good competition out there. Okay, there are some people that have a super high level acumen of this business, and there's a bunch of people that have a super high level of professionalism and just work ethic, and they've built something incredible. So I just want you to, like, the ship has sailed for you to just come in here and try to wing it. You're going to get eaten alive, right? Every single day you need to be polishing your craft, because your competition, the best of your competition, is doing that every single day. Does that make sense? Just listen to the way some people talk about their business, right? Oh, we got 10 listings coming in this week, and you know, I went out to this place to learn from this guy, and I'm reading this book, and you know, here's some investment ratios and these kind of things. Like, at one point, they didn't know what they didn't know, but they basically said to themselves, hey, if I want to be the local economist of choice, I better have some dialogue around this stuff, right? Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, any observations so far?
Yes, based off of what you were just saying, I was actually thinking when we were in our huddle this morning, um, that I, as a more blunt New Yorker in the South, need to polish my delivery on some things. Like I was just thinking that, and I do volume that's $5 to $6 million, and I'm like, you know what? I have to kind of like just polish myself a little bit more instead of being so used to having to jump to the point all the time.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And the other thing is that these people who are getting 10 listings a month, they have the time to consistently work on themselves because they also have the teams for leverage. So
Yep.
your agent, when you don't have that, you have to juggle. You have to say, what's really important today?
That's
What
exactly right.
do I go after today? What do I want to be my best at today? So that's just my 2 cents.
Very well said. A lot of times, let me touch on the first thing you talked about for a second. So a lot of times we are kind of who we are, and that's the way we approach things. And I'm guilty of that too, right? We all are, right? So if I'm I'm a high D, Heather, I know you're a high D too. Like just tell me, get to the point, right? But sometimes we have to be an actor sometimes, right? We have to say to ourselves, hey, if I communicate with this person like I naturally would, or that like I feel like it, that's not the way people are going to experience it. I need to figure out how they want to experience my presence and then become a chameleon for that, right? So if I'm not naturally somebody who wants to talk about market trends and statistics and these kind of things, yet I've got a lawyer or an architect or an engineer or something in front of me, I need to speak their language. If I'm not speaking their language, then they're not going to want to work with me, right? And if I've got a high I and I bust out an 80-page Chartmaster slide, they're probably going to try to kill me before it's over. Literally, right? Now one quick nuance, they want to know you know it, but don't you dare open that package, right? It's like, hey, just so you know, the 80-page brochure is right over here. I've studied it thoroughly. I won't waste your time with it. And they're like, thank God, right? It's important that you set expectations for some of these people too, especially high Ds and high Is really is, hey, just so you know, our meeting will last about 45 minutes to an hour. Will that be okay with you? Because if you go in blind and they're blind and you just start rattling off stuff, you're going to end up talking about yourself too much and you're going to be there for 3 hours. And that just quite frankly, it doesn't sit well with the listener because they're wondering how much longer this guy is going to be talking about themselves before it's polite to kick them out. And it also shows that you've got no clue what you're doing with respect to your time management. You're just there. Does that make sense? You should have a specific allotment of time, right, to go in there, do what you need to do, and leave. Okay, what do you guys hear from that? Any book recommendations? Yeah, I'll send a couple out in the group today. And some scripts as well, some kind of like intake scripts and these kind of things that really help move the conversation along. And some of the stuff is really DISC related or KPA related. Candace, what's on your mind?
I was just going to say, for newer agents who might be on a budget, don't forget the libraries have a lot of these books. They have a lot of resources.
Great thought. Okay, one thing I want to touch on is, if you guys remember that KW Connect, if you go to a slight bit nervous to do this in front of you guys because I have not gone here in a while, but if you go to KW Connect, resources, education, I'm sorry, hang on. Go to mykw.kw.com, then go to education at the top. Okay, and then you can go to see all this instructor-led training manuals, Ignite, Ignite 2.0, Leverage Series, Command Courses, Business Planning Clinic, Agent Curriculum, KWU on Demand, right? Leadership Curriculum, Shift, Guidelines and Checklist, KWU on Demand. Take a look at this really fast. Right, so you got all kinds of videos and you can search for stuff, right? Attract, recruit, and retain, command made easy, multiple offers for sellers, some stuff on luxury. I mean, you can, there's 202 pages of videos here. Okay, if you go to Keller Williams University, hang on, let me see where exactly it is. Okay, right here under resources, instructor-led training manuals. Look at all this stuff here. Okay, you have 3 simple steps to start using command, 30, 60, 90s, creating Facebook leads, business planning clinic, consumer experience, grow your profit share tree, Ignite 2.0, scripts catalogs. Look at all this stuff that you have access to, right? So there is plenty of curriculum that our organization provides for you to consistently, as they would say in bold, get 1% better every single day. Okay, so that leads me to the next topic, which is, let me just make sure I don't miss anything here. Okay, if you have not read these books, by the way, Millionaire Investor or Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, Shift, Flip, Hold, The One Thing. I'll just give you a quick plug for the One Thing podcast. I'm a big fan of Jeff Woods and Jay. The One Thing has a podcast that is awesome. If you want to watch, if you want to listen to something that will change your life, go listen to episode 50 on the One Thing podcast. Episode 50. 50. Okay, let's talk about the growth plan. Who knows what a growth plan is? Heather, what's a growth plan?
Well, I didn't want to contribute, but it's basically like, I mean, if I think I know what it is, it's the map of where you want to go to get to your growth level.
Not exactly. It's a component of that, but you might be thinking about the economic model is the math behind, I want to sell X units so I need to go on X appointments or whatever, right?
Plan, but I can't really verbalize it, to be honest.
No problem. Trent, was that you wanted to speak up? Okay.
It was not.
Okay. So a growth plan is basically a intentional, purposeful. Remember, we're kind of going back to the E to P that we talked about yesterday, entrepreneurial to purposeful, right? By the way, let's say that you wanted to be a learner, right? You wanted to commit to learning. Okay, let's go back to yesterday's perspective. Okay, are you going to take an entrepreneurial approach or are you going to take a purposeful approach? Let me give you an example of each. An entrepreneurial approach would be like, I'll buy some books, maybe, and they might sit in the corner. And if and when I ever have a free moment where the kids don't need anything and I've got no business tasks that need to get done and I'm fully rested and I've already had dinner with the family, then I think I'll get around to reading this book. By the way, I have not really been fully rested in about 16 years. So that's probably not going to happen, just so you know. Okay. So that's an entrepreneurial approach, and you'll probably have mediocre results at best. Okay. A purposeful approach would be, I have identified how many minutes I'm able to dedicate to this every day or every week or whatever. Let's say it's an hour a week. Okay. I would venture to say everyone's got an hour a week they could find somewhere. And if you don't, let me see your Facebook and we'll see how long you've been on Facebook this week. Okay. So basically what you would say is, during this hour, I'm going to learn this, right? I'm going to study this. I'm going to read this. I'm going to watch this, right? So you get intentional, purposeful about what you want to learn, right? Ultimately how it's going to help you, right? And when it's going to get done by. Okay. That's a very purposeful approach. Remember, it says making it a part of your action plan. So it's not just learning, you want to do something with the learning. Make sense? By the way, if you have other people in your organization, they should have a growth plan as well, because they've got a job description and they've got things they need to get more proficient at, because there's things that are relative to their job profile that they are probably not mastered or mastering, right? So the question is if I had an additional system or if I had an additional piece of technology, this whole deal would run smoother. Okay, your job is to go find that, right? I want to create opportunity here. You got your job, I got mine. Okay, so a lot of times what I have done, this is a cool, this is kind of an older one, but this is an example of what a growth plan might look like. Okay, so this may be applicable for everyone, but you can kind of take what you like. So it has all the months, January through December, and I split it up into what will I learn, what will I read or listen to, what will I teach, and what will I attend, right? So I might attend, let's say, a contracts class. I might teach a session on real estate investing to my database, right? I might listen to the Millionaire Real Estate Investor because I'm starting to, some investors are kind of coming into my world and I want to be able to speak their language, right? If they're like, hey, I need a 8 cap rate, and you're like, what's a cap rate? They're like, you're not my realtor. You see what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that you start to get familiar with some of the concepts and some of the vocabulary that your people might have, right? If you want to be the Roswell expert and somebody says, well, how far away is this from Roswell High School? And you're like, where exactly is Roswell High School? I don't think I'd want to use that realtor, to be honest with you. You see what I'm saying? So are you being intentional around becoming the economist of choice and kind of the neighborhood expert, so to speak? Right? The neighborhood expert would probably know when the farmer's market is open. Or the neighborhood expert would probably know what was the last big business that moved to town. Or they would know where the new school's coming in or something like that. Make sense? Okay, so I separated into learn, read, or listen, teach, and attend. So it could be really simple. It could be January, or let's use a different example. Let's say August. Okay, I would say that there are probably 3 primary kind of segments of the business that you should be a wizard at. Okay, the first is the market. Okay, you've got to understand what's available in the various parts of town that you're going to be working in, right? So maybe you're, Melissa, I'm going to take you for an example. Maybe Melissa says, my one thing or my intentional learning project this month in August is going to be, I'm going to know the market by August 31st or 30th, like you've never seen anybody know the market. And therefore, I'm going to pick the 4 cities that I believe I'll probably work the most. And maybe Monday of the first week, I say, hey, 200 to 400,000 in that neighborhood, what's available? Go see a couple of them. Next day, 400 to 500. Next day, 500 to 600. And every day you take a very calculated approach to learning the market, right? Where are these neighborhoods? Are they on this side of the highway or that side of the highway? Are they in this school district or that school district, right? Are they older? Are they newer? Are they larger? Are they smaller? When does somebody need to get a townhome because the houses are too expensive? All that kind of stuff, right? So every day, maybe you dedicate a certain amount of time to learning so you can build your craft. Okay, so certainly the market is one of them. I'd say the next one, not in any particular order, but another one is contracts. Okay, we want to make sure that we know how to put together an offer, We know how to fill out the paperwork, right? The contingencies. We want to make sure that we have connected it all to DocuSign. We want to make sure that we understand how to use DocuSign, like how to add people to the envelopes and how to, put in where the signatures are going to be and all that kind of stuff, right? Would anyone agree that it's a lot easier to navigate that stuff now when no deadlines are present and no one's breathing down your neck to get it done? Because the alternative is trying to do that at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday when no one wants to answer the phone. Okay. So by the way, if anyone is, if that's something that you need help with, there are lots and lots and lots of videos to learn a little bit more about it. And you can also reach out to anyone on the leadership team, or primarily Raven, to help make sure that that's all set up. And then you can send me like a mock offer or fill out a loan contingency form and say, hey, does this look right? And I can help you, and Candace can too, walk you through making sure you're crystal clear on how all that stuff works. So contracts, are you taking an intentional approach to contracts, or are you just hoping that by the time you need to write one, that information will have found its way into your brain, which is not a good idea, right? Okay, the next one is you got to know what to say, right? You got to know what to say. You got to know what to say to get the appointment, and then you got to know what to say while you're on the appointment, right? So we need to study what to say, and we need to take a very purposeful approach to that. So maybe you print out all the for sale by owner scripts, or the circle prospecting scripts, or the care call scripts, or the expired listing scripts, or buyer seller scripts, and you're reading through them every day, maybe, so that you could say, hey, I will be smarter tomorrow than I am today. And the reason why is because I have committed to this little time slot to build my skill set. Does that make sense? You think any days go by that LeBron James doesn't shoot a basketball? Not a chance. Make sense? Okay, thoughts, questions?
To piggyback off what you just said about LeBron James, when I started KW, someone said to me, players have coaches, right? Actors have coaches. You look at them and you marvel at their success. And it just made me think, well, then I need a coach too, because I want to always be successful.
Yep.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. I find it interesting that this may sting a little bit. I find it interesting that the people who have been the most talkative today are the highest producers, right? So like they say in Bold, how you participate in here is how you'll participate out there, right? All right, thoughts, questions? Candace, want to add anything?
I was just going to say to Heather, who posted in the chat, any book recommendations on the craft of conversation. If you go to Audible and you put in how to talk to people, you'll have a whole lot of books come up. There was one from Barbara Walters that Ryan found for $1,000. I found again for a used copy for $6.97. But Barbara Walters wrote a book, how to talk to anybody about practically anything. And that's an excellent book as well.
Yeah.
And that's for everybody.
I did not buy it for $1,000.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, that's okay. Here's one. I have not personally read this one, but Robin shared it as a recommendation. It is called How to Say Anything to Anyone, a guide to building business relationships that really work. Okay, I'll share that link right here.
Thank you both.
There's a few more. I'll share those a little bit later. But that's one that I've read snippets because Aubrey and Robin talk about it a lot, but I have not personally read it myself. Anyone else want to share anything?
I was going to say there's a couple of those, and that might be the one, but there's a few that are free, like if you have Prime Reading, and a Kindle or something, then you can get some of those, or there's a couple that were free.
Yeah, and if you go to YouTube, by the way, and just type in the name of the book, a lot of times there's an audio version of that, and it's almost always free. So you can take advantage of that. Crucial conversations. I love that. Tools for talking when the stakes are high. Is that what it says? Do you believe that when you're talking to a prospect, the stakes are high?
Always. And so I clearly started to read it, and then I kind of, I guess, segued out of it. And my problem is I buy all these books and then I read them and I put it down for whatever reason. And then they sit there and then I buy more books. Because that's, like I said,
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I've read a lot, but I still have a very smart bookshelf of things I haven't read.
thoroughly, and I have to give this, I'm actually going to put a bookshelf here so that I can give it more visibility because it's kind of stacked under stuff. And I completely forgot I had this book, but this was a great book too. So
Love it. Thank you. If you'd like recommendations on things, I've got a bunch of books here and a bunch more at home. And I don't want to overwhelm you with stuff and then paralyze you. So what I'm going to ask you to do is maybe we just look at the month of August and say, what kind of grouping of stuff is it? I need to figure out technology this month. Is it I got to work on my database this month? Is it I need to understand the market better or contracts better this month? So think through in the final days of July, what is the topic that I'm going to get super strategic about in the month of August? And then when is that going to happen so that it increases the likelihood of it actually happening? Make sense? And I will give you all something for the month of August in case you're having a hard time thinking it through. The first thing is Mega Camp. Mega Camp is the 23rd through the 25th or 6th, I think. It's going to be digital. There's some invites for going to Austin, but it's going to be digital. We're going to have some viewing parties here and lots of masterminds and whatnot around it. So I highly suggest, highly suggest you engage in that. It's an investment in yourself, okay? And we'll probably have a few contests and stuff maybe for another ticket or two, okay? All right, you guys, as always, I appreciate your partnership, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Oh,
Hi,
Heather,
everybody. Thank
Heather,
you, Bill.
thank you so much for your note here. As an ALC member, we actually have a few ALC members here. Your willingness to help agents as they're kind of learning the craft, I appreciate that. Thank you.
of course.
All right, take care, guys.